What is going on, everybody? Man, we have a loaded show tonight. It's been a little bit since we went live to talk about Nebraska football, everything that's going on. So we have a loaded show. We're going to be talking about winter conditioning, what's been going on recently, the nuggets that we've heard over the past couple days, past couple weeks. That's going to lead off the show tonight. Then we're going to talk a little bit recruiting. We're getting to that point in the offseason where recruiting is really starting to heat up. Some big-time prospects are scheduling visits, narrowing down their list. So I'm going to give you some updates on some key players who we haven't really talked about on the channel yet. Then we're going to talk a little bit about spring practice coming up here very soon. Man, what do we got? We got about 2 weeks until Nebraska spring practice starts up. So it's been going the whole offseason, man. It's been going by really, really quick. Spring practice almost here. So it's going to be a jam-packed show. And then we're going to talk a little bit of Nebraska basketball. We got to talk Nebraska basketball with what happened today. So we're talking a little bit of Nebraska basketball, Nebraska athletics in general. But, man, we got a lot of stuff going on tonight. It's going to be a very fun live stream. But everybody, let me know down below where you're tuning in from. Let me know in the comment section where you're tuning in from. And also hit that like button on the stream before we get things going. It really helps me out, helps other people see it. So hit that like button. But yeah, let's just get things started, guys. Talking a little bit about Nebraska winter conditioning, the few nuggets that we've heard, the breakout players, the guys who, and it's hard to say breakout players, right? Because it's winter conditioning. There's no actual practice going on. It's just, putting in the work every single day, right? The strength training, the speed training, right? The conditioning. But still, even though there's not actual practice, there are guys who are breaking out just by their leadership, by their work ethic, by their drive. And I want to get things started with the guy that, honestly, out of every single player on the team, I've heard the most about this guy over the past couple weeks. This is a transfer. Might not be who you expect. This is Dasan McCullough coming in from Oklahoma, man. We've been hearing a lot of great stuff about Dasan McCullough since he got to Lincoln. Again, 6'5", about 235 pounds when he got here. Man, oh man, we're expecting this guy to take a huge jump this year for the Big Red. He's a leader already. He's taken this linebacker room, been that guy already. I expect him to be a single-digit player. But when we talk about Dasan McCullough, we always talk about the athletic upside. Again, he has long arms, his length. He's incredibly fast, incredibly explosive. He's going to start at Jack this year for the Big Red. But he's a guy who can do just about everything. So Dasan McCullough, man, we've heard multiple coaches already name drop him as a guy who, again, has already been breaking out for the Huskers and playing very well. And I'm buying stock. And I loved Dasan McCullough coming out of high school, and I loved his athletic upside. His career hasn't necessarily panned out the way I thought it was going to. But, man, I expect him to be an NFL draft pick this time next year for Nebraska. I'm buying stock. You guys should too, from the stuff that we've been hearing so far about Dasan McCullough. So that's the first guy I want to mention. I also want to have a conversation about a guy who maybe we aren't as high on. And this is Isaiah Hunter. So I thought it was interesting listening to Kel Shorts talk a little bit a couple days ago. And to Kel Shorts, he basically talked about all the notable wide receivers, the Jacory Barneys, the Hartley Gilmores, the Dane Keys, and he was praising a lot of them, saying how great these guys were playing, how he's really excited for this room. And then he talked about Isaiah Hunter, and it felt like, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, you can listen to the interview yourself, but it felt like he wasn't as excited about Isaiah Hunter. And he basically, the sentiment about Isaiah Hunter was that he needs to continue to develop and that he's not, as good as maybe he's going to be in a couple years or, as the offseason progresses. And I thought that was really interesting because when you heard him talk about Jacory Barnes, he was hyping up Jacory. He said Jacory Barnes is just like Tank Dell. And he was hyping up Dane Key. He said Dane Key's a true professional. And he was hyping up Hartley Gilmore. He said the Hartley Gilmore's put on a bunch of good weight. And then when he talked about Isaiah Hunter, which was at the very end, he's like, well, Isaiah's just going through stuff and he's still working. Interesting. And again, a lot of times these coaches, they don't tell you things. They don't tell you the breakout players. They try to keep these guys under wraps, but you can read in between the lines. And when they're hyping up a guy over and over and over again, like, okay, maybe we got some here. But when they're a little bit more cautious, and especially when the beat reporters ask them about a specific player and they respond, they're cautious like this, it just makes me think. And I'm a guy who, I've been high on Isaiah Hunter since he got to Nebraska. Like, I watch a lot of Cal football. He was their Jacory Barney last year. You look at the stats on your screen, 600 yards, 5 touchdowns. He outproduced Jacory Barney. But it's just interesting when you listen to the coaching staff talk that, maybe, I don't know, maybe they aren't as high on him initially as we thought they were going to be. So that's something that I'm really intrigued about. What's going on with Isaiah Hunter? Is he playing up to snuff so far in winter conditioning? Is he going to start? Because I think Hartley Gilmore might be, nipping at the chain to get an opportunity to start. So that's a guy that I'm absolutely watching out for. And then there's another guy I want to pull up here that I'm really looking out for. I haven't really heard too much about him in winter conditioning, but I want to have a conversation about him. This is Quinn Clark. And we heard the talk around Quinn Clark, particularly at the end of last season. This big 6'5" legacy receiver from Montana. How is he going to be utilized in this offense? To this day, I'm not really sure how we're going to utilize Quinn Clark. Because when I've been really diving into past Houston games, past West Virginia games with Dana Holgorsen at the helm, trying to dive into what this offense is going to look like. And I just don't know if there's a role for Quinn Clark, because if you watch Dana Holgorsen, he likes speed more than anything. He likes height, don't get me wrong. But Dana Holgorsen's a guy where if you don't have speed, you're not going to get on the field. And Quinn Clark, he got the height. He has the athleticism necessarily. But does he have the speed? I think it's going to be really interesting to see kind of what role he carves out. I wouldn't be shocked if Quinn Clark becomes a tight end. Wouldn't be shocked. And that was always kind of my thing out of high school. It's like I wouldn't be shocked if they kind of make him a hybrid. Not necessarily a full wide receiver X, but a tight end, as his career progresses. So this is a guy who, I'm really intrigued about spring ball. And then we'll talk about spring ball kind of as the live stream progresses. But that's a guy that I'm absolutely intrigued to talk about. A little bit, just talking about winter conditioning, wrapping this section up, and then we'll talk a little bit about recruiting. Dekel Shorts, man. I made a video about Dekel Shorts about a week ago. I really believe that is such a homeroom hire for Nebraska. We talk about this receiver room all the time and how it wasn't physical last year, and how Isaiah Nayer didn't play up to snuff like we thought he was going to, and Jamal Banks. And I was on. If you guys know, like you guys are OGs of the channel, you guys know I was a Jamal Banks truther. I thought Jamal Banks was going to have an NFL type season. Well, of course, it didn't happen. The reason why that didn't happen, I don't think was because those guys weren't talented enough. It was because we didn't have a good receiver coach who didn't know how to develop those guys. That changes with Dekel Shorts. So I can sit here all day and talk to you about how I think Dekel Shorts is going to bring in a bunch of 4-star guys here, and I think that's absolutely going to happen. But what impresses me about Dekel Shorts more than anything is I truly believe he's going to take a lot of these wide receivers to the next level. He's going to take Ja'Cory Barney to the next level. He's going to take a Dane Key, who is already one of the best players in the SEC, to the next level to be a potential first-round NFL draft pick. He's going to make Isaiah Hunter better. Really, really excited about him. And then, Mike Ekeler is a guy who talked recently at a press conference for Nebraska. And man, how could you not like Mike Ekeler? That dude is just fiery. Like, special teams is going to be so much better this year just because we have a guy like Mike Ekeler because he demands excellence. He's energetic. He's relatable. He's a great, great assistant coach that you want to have around. Mike Ekeler, man, I'm excited for the special teams unit. So that's kind of talking about winter conditioning. Want to hear what you guys have to say before we talk a little bit about recruiting. We're going to get into recruiting, but what do you guys think about winter conditioning? Again, mat drills. This is the final week of mat drills, so we're doing this on Sunday, Monday through Friday, the last mat drills, and then spring break begins for Nebraska. And then when they come back from spring break, that week will be the beginning of spring practice. So last week of mat drills. Again, heard some good things about Deshaun McCullough. These people always ask me about true freshmen. People always say, which true freshman have you been most impressed with? Have you heard the most about? I'll give you three. I'll give you three true freshmen. Jamarian Parker is somebody who I constantly bring up. And I truly believe if Jamarian Parker does everything right off the field, he's going to be the backup to Emmett Johnson this year. So that's one. Number two is Houston Torres. We already kind of talked about him. I think he's built at a really, really good level for being a true freshman. You just don't see true freshmen built as well as he is. He's going to potentially get in that too deep as a true freshman at that guard spot. And then the last true freshman that we've heard a lot of good stuff about, I'd say about the past 2 weeks. I didn't hear too much about this guy, at the beginning of winter conditioning. But really, you talk to a bunch of beat reporters, the coaching staff, heard some good things about him recently is Cortez Mills. I think Cortez Mills, when he got on campus for Nebraska, it is a little bit of an adjustment. But man, oh man, if he gets locked in, he gets dialed in, especially in spring ball, does all the right things. And that's always been my thing about Cortez Mills. If he can do all the right things from Monday to Friday, he's going to be a phenomenal player because the athletic upside, it speaks for itself about him. So hearing some good things about Cortez Mills. Those are the three true freshmen. Real quick, want to get in the comment section before we give you some recruiting nuggets. All around, appreciate you all around for your comment. Thank you so much. He says, I'm a huge Williams Nwaneri fan. I know what you think, but I really think he's going to be a good player and a potential starter. He's very similar to Cortez Mills all around. Again, it's just, can he do all the right things from Monday to Friday? Because we know the upside's there with Williams-Nwaneri. Again, he's a very, very athletic freak, great length. Again, he's 6'7". He explodes off the line of scrimmage. He's incredibly fast. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's a good player. But can he take it to the next level? Can he continue to put on weight? I don't know. Because I get worried because he didn't do that at Missouri last year, and he wasn't locked in at Missouri last year. And it didn't look like he wanted to be there. Sometimes it's just more about the mental stuff than the physical stuff. We've seen a lot of really good, talented recruits come to Nebraska over the past couple of years. We can throw out a bunch of names who are on paper incredibly talented, but they never pan out to be anything. It's not because they're not good football players. It's because they never commit themselves. Can Williams-Nwaneri commit himself to this team? It remains to be seen. But if he can do that, I see no reason why he can't start. I just don't know if I'm necessarily going to buy that just yet. Cortez Mosey's going to surprise people. I think so too. But you guys know how I feel. I think Isaiah Mosey is the best of the bunch when it comes to the true freshman wide receivers. I think Isaiah Mosey might be in the mix to start. I shouldn't say start, but I think he'll be in that 3 deep. And I think he's going to be in the mix, potentially not redshirt for the Big Red. So want to watch out for that. Let's talk recruiting, guys. Let's talk a little bit recruiting, because we're getting to that point in the offseason where recruiting is going to start to heat up, right? Nobody's really committing now. This is the dead period. Nobody's visiting anywhere. But once we get really into late March, April, specifically the summer months, it's going to be a frenzy of recruiting. So want to put some guys on your radar that we're going to talk about a lot over the next couple of weeks. Let's talk about CJ Brana first. This is the one Nebraska commit who is a 4-star. CJ Brana has absolutely blown up to proportions that even I didn't think when we initially got his commitment. Now, I shared with you when he committed to us in November that he's an athletic freak, that he is 6'1". He's incredibly tall for being a corner, but he runs a legit 10.3 100-meter dash, which is unbelievably fast. So he's a freak athlete, but when he committed to Nebraska, he was a mid 3-star. I want you to look at this right now on your screen. Look at the recruiting ranking for him now. According to 24/7 Sports, he is the 32nd best player in America. He's a top 100 player. In my opinion, when you become a top 100 player, you're one of them ones. You're a blue chipper. You're a potential 5-star recruit. So I just want to put that in perspective on the way that CJ Brana has blown up. He's went to Rivals camp time and time again. He's got MVP honors. He's blown up and got 1 million offers all around the country. The reason why I'm telling you all of this is because although he is a Nebraska commit, the recruitment is far from over. And that's going to be something that we absolutely have to watch. Can Nebraska continue to keep him committed? Can Addison Williams build that relationship with CJ Brana every single day? Because there are some big-time schools, okay? Penn State just offered him. Texas A&M just offered him the other day. LSU has offered him. Florida State, Miami, Florida. I believe he's going to get a Georgia offer very soon. Every school in the country wants him. Oregon offered this guy. We've got to do whatever it takes to lock this guy down because I'm telling you, he's a freak athlete. We need him in the secondary. Talking about a couple other guys who are brand new names I want to put on your radar. And by the way, start putting stuff in the comment section. We'll get into what you guys had to say in here in a little bit. But this guy just recently said that Nebraska is trying to flip him. So this is Darrell Bell III, Florida State commit, 4-star according to 24/7 Sports Composite, hard hitter safety coming out of Florida. Would watch out for this name. Nebraska is pushing to get him on a visit this summer. And you want a hard hitter, Cam Chancellor type guy in the secondary, watch out for Darrell Bell III. But recently mentioned that Nebraska trying to flip him. Nayland Scott is somebody who I recently dove into the film for Nayland Scott just the other day. He's coming on a visit for Nebraska this June. He's probably our third biggest wide receiver target. Really, really like his game. Very physical receiver, good speed. You can play all over the field. Want to watch out for Nayland Scott. Ja'Cory Smith is somebody who is also coming on a visit, who is a new name out of Arkansas, 4-star linebacker. I think another physical guy who has a good motor, good speed. Absolutely want to watch out for him. So a bunch of really new names in here. But, man, I'm telling you, recruiting is really going to start going crazy over the next couple of weeks, over the next couple of months. So these are some names they're absolutely going to want to remember because once these visits start happening, these final lists start getting penned down, we're going to be talking about these guys pretty much on a daily, weekly basis. So that is a little bit of the recruiting update. We'll talk spring practice in a little bit here. I want to get to your comments. We're just getting started, folks. So put all your comments in here, what you guys are thinking. Grant Brooks says, do you think that if Dylan makes the big jump that people think he can? Oh, okay. Do you think that if Dylan makes the big jump that people think he can, do you think we can get in the playoffs? Well, it just defines how big is the jump going to be. We need to define where Dylan Raiola was last year. How good was Dylan Raiola last year? Was he a top 30 quarterback? Was he top 40? I'll say he was a top 40 quarterback. What's that jump going to look like? Is it going to be top 40 to top 20, top 40 to top 10? If he can be a top 10 quarterback, and I've already stated this, if Dylan Raiola could be a top 10 quarterback for Nebraska this year, I see no reason why you can't make the playoffs, because the quarterback position is the only position that completely can change ball games, and it can elevate the roster around it. Okay. A quarterback can elevate the receivers around it. A quarterback can elevate the running back play around it. Okay. A quarterback can elevate the O-line play. You might not have the best O-line in the world, but if your quarterback's smart and has a good pocket presence, it's going to be a lot better. It's going to look a lot better. So I started that to say this. If Dylan can be top 10, we're looking at a top 10 offense. And you have a top 10 Dana Holgorsen offense with a Matt Rhule coach defense, who Matt Rhule said he said in the past that he's always had a good defense wherever he's been, no matter who the defensive coordinator is. I see no reason why we can't make the college football playoff. But the big thing is Dylan Raiola going to make that jump? Is he actually going to be top 10 quarterback? Because I have my doubts, and I'm sure you have your doubts too. I'm sure everybody has their doubts. My main thing about Dylan is that Dylan, I don't know. I don't want to get pessimistic about Dylan. I still believe in Dylan, but it's like, is he really going to be that generational first overall draft pick that we thought we were getting? I don't know. Not like he needs to be. I just need him to be a top 10 quarterback. I just need him to be a Dylan Gabriel. I just need him to be a Will Howard. If he can be that, we're going to be a really good football team. Now, in a obscene world, a crazy world where he becomes a Trevor Lawrence, a Tua Tagovailoa, a Jaden Daniels, yeah, absolutely, we're looking at a playoff team, and it's not even particularly close. So that is my answer to that. But again, the big question, can Dylan actually become a top 10 quarterback? I have my doubts. We'll talk about that all summer long. Living in Omaha, David, thank you for your comment. He says, Wilson, what is our biggest weakness going into next season? Yeah, I think there are three options. I think the running back room, I think the pass rush, and I think the defensive backs. Of all of those options, I would probably tell you that I think the pass rush is our biggest weakness. We just don't have we don't have a bunch of good pass rushers on the roster. We don't. Okay, let's just visualize who our starting three is going to be next year on the D-line. Okay, you got, let's say, Riley Van Poppel inside at nose. You have Cameron Lenhard, and let's say you have Keone Davis. Not a bad three, but all of those three players are run stopping. They're not particularly awesome, in the pass rush. They're not phenomenal getting the quarterback. Cameron Lenhard has graded out time and time again as one of the best run-stopping DNs in college football. But that's a guy who barely gets sacks and barely gets pressures. Same thing with Riley Van Poppel. Right. Now, Keone Davis, I think, can be a really good pass rusher, but it remains to be seen. So I think the pass rush for Nebraska is something that I'm absolutely going to want to see improve next year. It wasn't even that good last year, and we had Ty Robinson. So it needs to continue to improve because, again, that can take over ball games. You can't scheme out a good pass rush. If you're going up against a great defensive line against quarterback, that's about as big of a game wrecker as it gets. So I think that's probably our biggest weakness going into next year. Good question, David. Steve says we need hard hitters. I agree with you, dude. And that's something that we've lacked. Again, we lack the Cam Chancellors. We lack the we've had some guys like Deshaun Singleton even. Deshaun Singleton, when he first got here, man, he was a hard hitter, and then he got injured, and we didn't see that last year. So we just need these hard hitters who, make these wide receivers, these slot wide receivers scared to run down the middle because you got a big safety, trying to lay the boom on you. We just don't have that. We kind of have these safeties like maybe Marquez Buford, who are better at zone coverage rather than actually laying the boom on somebody and having to being a secure tackler. So yeah, man, we need some hard hitters. I think that's what we're going to see with Addison Williams. In your opinion, what is the minimum standard of wins this season? Like the minimum, we've heard all, ever since Matt Rhule got here, that it's the year three. It's always the year three boom. So that's going for us. Dylan Raiola's second year is expecting to take this big jump. And then you look at our schedule, and it's pretty darn easy. Now, it's not cupcakes everywhere. You still play at Penn State. You still play in Michigan. You still play in Iowa. But the non-con schedule objectively is easy. The rest of the conference schedule is objectively easy. So with all of those things considered, I think it would honestly be a really big disappointment if we didn't win anything more than 9. And I know that's crazy to some people. 9 wins. But I just look at this roster and I see the talent at the receiver room. I say we have a pretty good quarterback. Our O-line's the best it's been in a while. I think we have a bunch of talent in the linebacker room. The DB room's pretty talented. And the schedule is so easy. There's no reason we can't win 9 games. There's no reason. And at some point, you're going to have to take that jump. Is Nebraska always going to be a middling program under Matt Rhule? Or is it going to be a program that's in competition for Big Ten titles every year? This is the year that we really decide that. If we go out there next year and win 6 games, we're just pretty much always forever going to be an average program with Matt Rhule. I'm convinced. But if Matt Rhule can rattle off 9-10 wins, then we need to start having legit conversations about potentially winning a Big Ten title, winning a national championship along those lines. So this is a big year for Matt Rhule. It's a big year. And I think 9 wins is kind of my benchmark. But I'm predicting about 8 right now. Grant says, when are you going to do a College Bowl 25 gameplay stream or video with fans? Yeah, I'll do that at some point. I'll do that sometime. The problem is I'm in college right now, so I don't have too much time to play video games. I am on spring break starting now for the entire week. So I don't know. Maybe we might see that this week, Grant. That might be a good idea. We might do that this week. I'm telling you, I'm so good at that video game. So you guys, anybody who played me would lose. But now we'll do that. And then this summer, when the new college football game comes out, we'll definitely do another live stream the day of when it comes out, just like we did last year. Because I know a lot of people like that. Good question. Chris says, wish we could stick with the dual threat quarterback rather than a pocket passer. Seems like we would be a bigger threat if we had a dual threat. Just saying. I think this is the problem, is that Nebraska fans never know what they want at the quarterback spot. Okay, we had a bunch of dual threats under Scott Frost. We had Adrian Martinez. We had Luke McCaffrey. We had Logan Smothers. And when we had those quarterbacks, you know what the fan base said? They said, no, we need a pass-first quarterback, a guy who passes and then runs. And now we have a pass-first quarterback, and now the fan base is like, oh, we need a dual threat. Now, I agree with you. I agree that we do need a more of a dual threat quarterback like Dylan. I didn't expect Dylan to be as much of a statue as he was last year. Like, I thought he could run a little bit. I was wrong. He could not run, and he was a little banged up with his ankle, and we talked about that in the season. But I agree. Like, we do need a little bit more of a dual threat quarterback, but I want a guy who's a pass-first guy. Like, in my world, in my ideal world, I want a Caleb Williams, where Caleb Williams is a pass-first guy, but Caleb can get outside the pocket. Caleb can scoot a little bit. That's who I want. Not necessarily, maybe like a Taylor Martinez, who would be a run-first guy. So that's what I want. But I don't want, a statue like a Dylan. I mean, obviously, I think Dylan can run a little bit, but not enough, in my opinion. But that doesn't mean Dylan can't be a good quarterback, but I think it would be better for us. And I think that that's exactly what Dana Holgorsen wants, too. Dana Holgorsen wants a dual threat. So hopefully he can stick around and recruit one. Steve says, we need defensive backs that can be hard hitters. I agree with you, dude. We need just better tacklers all over this defense. That's something that really showed up, I'd say, in the Iowa game when we missed all those tackles on Caleb Johnson. And Caleb Johnson went all the way to the house. The UCLA game and the USC game. All 3 of those ball games, we could not tackle on defense, specifically in the secondary, specifically laterally. Okay. That was the one thing about Sear Wright. Like, I thought Sear Wright was a baller last year for Nebraska, but Sear Wright can't tackle, especially in open space. Need to improve that all over. And Sear Wright is going to start for us, and I feel great about Sear Wright. I think it's going to be an NFL draft pick, but we just need better, more physical corners, man. And that was the thing that we really that really hurt about Tommy Hill getting injured. And I know the fan base, for whatever reason, the fan base has a vendetta against Tommy Hill. Say what you want about Tommy Hill, but when he was healthy, he was one of the best corners in college football, and he was so physical, and he liked tackling. He was a great tackler. That's when he got hurt, we really didn't have that edge anymore in our defense. All Around says, I'm the biggest Dylan believer. I believe in him so much. I hope you're right, man. I really do. And I believe in Dylan too. I think there's a lot of haters in the fan base who don't believe anymore in Dylan. They've already given up. And I'm like, what are we doing here? He was a true freshman last year. So, but I want to always temper people's expectations because it's Nebraska football. It never works the way it should. But yeah, man, I still believe as well. My man Nick says, working even on break the GOAT. Hey, man, you're the GOAT more than I'm the GOAT. Appreciate you, my man. Steve says, Dylan needs to release the ball fast. I agree. I think with Dylan, we always talk about what Dylan needs to improve on. I think Dylan needs to have better accuracy down the field. I think that's obvious. Dylan needs to improve his bullet accuracy because I just, for whatever reason, Dylan does not like throwing in tight windows. And he doesn't like throwing, full force. When Dylan is most comfortable, he's throwing these little lobs, 10, 20 yards on the field. It's good to throw a lob, when you're throwing, to the hash marks 25 yards out. But when you're throwing a slant down to Corey Barney in the middle of the field, you got to bullet that thing in there as quick as possible. And Dylan did not do that. So I need to see him improve that. Overall, I mean, it's just really an accuracy thing and to just trust his arm a little more. There were a couple of times where, I was rewatching the UCLA game in particular, and he just missed a couple of guys downfield because I don't think he had the confidence to throw that football. So he needs to just trust his training a little bit more, man. Raiola gave Gary a real hug after the game. Class move, man. Respect that. I mean, that Nebraska basketball game, dude. Oh gosh, dude, Nebraska basketball. What can even be said about them? The collapse. They lose 6 of their last 7. They were locked about a month ago to make the NCAA tournament. Now they're not even going to make it. So, yeah, they don't even make the Big Ten tournament. So, yeah, Nebraska basketball. I can't say I'm surprised because the talent on that team isn't good. Bryce Williams carried them for the majority of the year, but that was not the way you wanted to go out, and that's a bad look for Hoiberg more than anything. Like to lose 6 of the last 7 is a bad look for Hoiberg, but Hoiberg's safe. I mean, he ain't getting fired, and I'm not calling for him to get fired either, but. That ain't acceptable. That isn't acceptable. You can't lose 6 of your last 7, Fred. You just can't. You just can't. And I wish that the state of Nebraska cared more about basketball, because I think if we cared more about basketball, we'd be a lot more successful. But the Nebraska fan base, they don't really care about basketball. I mean, I understand. I'll tell you this. The Nebraska fans who care about basketball, they root for Creighton because Creighton wins. That's the unfortunate truth. All right. All Around says, honestly, if we win any less than 8, I'm just giving up selling my Rhule stock. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't sell all your stock, but yeah, I think if we lose or we win less than 9 games, I think that'd be definitely a big disappointment. I think it'd be definitely a big disappointment at least for me. Off topic, but Nebraska fans are so dumb that it makes our football fans look like complete geniuses. Oh my, come on, Blake. What are we doing here? Going on Nebraska? No, I mean, you're not completely wrong. I just think Nebraska basketball fans don't care about basketball. They don't really know what it takes to win. And and this is my thing about Fred Hoiberg is that I like Fred Hoiberg. I think he's a good coach, but he just doesn't recruit. Like he doesn't like recruiting. And that's why Nebraska basketball isn't successful. So I don't know, but what do I know? I'm a self-proclaimed J-Scar. I mean, I root for Nebraska basketball. I root for Creighton basketball. I root for Omaha basketball. Shout out to the Mavs, make the NCAA tournament. I root for any team in Nebraska. I love the state of Nebraska more than anything. So I root for pretty much everybody in the state. So I'm happy that although Nebraska doesn't have success, Omaha's having success. They're making a little run. So shout out to them. They're playing. I think they're playing right now. Let's check the Omaha basketball score in the Summit League Championship. They're up 21-17. Shout out the Mavs. Shout out the Mavs. Dual threat and pass first are not mutually exclusive. I agree with you, but it's very hard for you to be a dual threat and be pass first. There's not many like Caleb Williams out there. There's just not many. And to be elite. So dual threat quarterbacks aren't usually great passers. And that was always our thing. When we had Adrian Martinez, everybody wanted this pass first guy, this statue quarterback. And now that we have a statue quarterback, everybody wants a dual threat. Like everybody, we just got to make up our minds here. What do we want, guys? Do we want a pass first guy or run first guy? I don't know. I hate how as soon as a kid from the team makes a bad play, the fan base makes it seem like they're terrible, like the Isaiah Nair situation. And look how he did at the combine. Yeah, I'm not an Isaiah Nair here. I know a lot of the fans don't like Isaiah Nair. And I get it. Like Isaiah Nair, he kind of had some interactions with the fans at the end of the year. But I think the Nebraska fan base, they forget how good Isaiah Nair was for us. At least the first 6 games of the year. Like Isaiah Nair was a really, really good player those final 6 games, the first 6 games. He was really good. And yeah, he dropped off in the final 6 games, but it wasn't just him. Everybody dropped off in the final 6 games. Dylan dropped off. Dante Dell dropped off. Emmett dropped off. Nobody played well in those final 6. We won only one of the final 6. So I know everybody goes Isaiah Nair, and specifically for that, that Iowa drop he had. But I thought Isaiah Nair for the majority of the season was actually pretty good. He wasn't a world beater. He wasn't an elite receiver, but he did what we asked him to do. And it felt like of all the receivers, whenever there was a big play, it was him or Jacory. So I don't know. I'll defend Isaiah, and I wasn't shocked that he blew up and did very well at the combine. Like, he's an athletic freak. We knew that when we got him. So shout out to Isaiah Nair. I hope he gets drafted, because at the end of the day, if he gets drafted and he gets drafted well, that's a good thing for our program. We can say, hey, we turned around his career and he went to the NFL. So we want him to succeed. Losing Burke hurt them big time. Burke's played pretty bad ever since he came back from injury. So, I mean, yeah, but I agree. I think Dylan holds on the ball too long. I don't get it. I don't think that's as big of an issue. Dylan didn't really take that many sacks last year. That was never really an issue. Sometimes these quarterbacks, they take too many sacks. I think Adrian Martinez took way too many sacks. I think that was actually one of the strong points of Dylan's game, is that I think his pocket presence was better than a lot of people expected. He didn't take that many sacks. So I was actually impressed with that part of his game. So I don't know. But I do agree he needs to get the ball out quicker, because I think there's times where Dylan, he's in the pocket, he doesn't see anybody, and he'll just panic. Like, if nobody's there, you got to throw the ball away, man. Instantly. So Jake says, go Big Red. Shout out to you, Jake. What's going on, my man? Hope you're having a good night. Proud J-Sker 2 here. I have family ties to both. Am I allowed, right? Yeah, you're allowed. You're allowed. And I'll stand here and tell you, people won't like me for this. I think the Nebraska Crane rivalry is fake. I don't know. I think the only people who don't like Crane are people from Lincoln. Most of the people in Omaha root for both. They root for both Nebraska basketball and Crane basketball. That's the way I work. I root for every single team in Nebraska because I'm loyal to the state. I think it's really cool that Crane's successful. I think it's really cool that Nebraska is successful at some sports. I root for the state over everything. So that's just my opinion. But I know it's a hot topic. I know some people are going to disagree with me on that one. My man, Everything Huskers said he met Dylan today. Great guy. Good. That's pretty cool, man. Y'all talk about anything? He give you any inside scoops you can share with us? That'd be cool, though. That's cool, though. You probably met him at the basketball game. Nathan, what's going on, Nathan? Hope you're having a good night, my man. All right, let's talk. Keep putting stuff in the comment section. Let's talk a little bit about spring practice. Let's talk about what we're looking for in spring practice, because this is going to be a big spring practice for Nebraska. Okay. For the first time ever, Nebraska has got to cut players. Nebraska's got to cut about 20, 25 guys. And some of those guys are going to be scholarship. Positional battles everywhere. Running back battle, DB battle. Let's just get things started talking about everything again. Keep putting stuff in the comment section. I'll get back to all your guys' stuff. But I want to shift this conversation towards spring practice, what we're looking for. Okay. The first thing I want to talk about is the hot topic, and it's the running back room. I think we've talked a lot about needing a power back recently. We need this big bruising power back who can truck over defenders, who can stiff arm and do all of that. But recently I've kind of thought about this a little more, and I don't think we need a power back. We need a short yardage back. And that is what we need to find throughout spring practice. We have Emmett, and Emmett's good. Emmett's not a world beater. If any of you guys are expecting Emmett to be a top 10 running back, that's not going to happen. And I've always been an Emmett truther. I've been hyping up Emmett ever since I've been doing YouTube, since he was a true freshman. So I know how good Emmett is. But Emmett's not a top 10 running back, but he's going to be good for us. But he can't carry the entire load. You need a complementary running back. We need a short yardage back. That is what we desperately lack. We need a short yardage running back where it's 3rd and 2. You're going up against Wisconsin. You feel confident with giving it to, Quinn Ives or Mekhi Nelson or Jamarian Parker, and they're instantly going to get you 2. That's what we need more than anything. Free money. That's what we need. We don't necessarily need a power back. I think that's been overstated a little bit over the past couple, weeks, even by myself. But diving into the way Dana Holgorsen operates his offense, he doesn't even use power backs. He just wants short yardage guys to complement the dynamic, elusive, Emmett Johnson. So that's what I'm looking for. And I'm also looking for a guy who can catch passes out of the backfield. Now, Emmett's good at that. I wouldn't say Emmett's great at catching passes. He's not great in the pass pro either. And that was one of the reasons why Sat wasn't a big Emmett guy initially. It's because Emmett was phenomenal. And I was always pounding the table, get Emmett on the field. Emmett wasn't always the best in pass pro, at least compared to some of the other guys like Emmett, like Ramir Johnson, like Dante Dowdell. I saw that to say this. We need a running back to step up who can block, who can catch passes at an elite level, maybe even at the wide receiver spot, who can go in the slot. I'm looking at Mekhi Nelson. We've heard some good stuff about Mekhi Nelson. You talked to some beat reporters, you talked to, such and such coach. Mekhi Nelson's a guy who they thought was a hidden gem that they brought in last summer. I'm watching out for Mekhi Nelson. Really, really want to see him shine. I'll talk about him in tomorrow's video. But again, there's some good stuff around him. It's going to be an interesting battle, though. That's the first thing that I'm looking out for in spring practice, is that running back battle. What's going on with Quinn Ives? Because Quinn Ives is one of those players where he's going into his third year. If Quinn Ives is not, getting that depth chart, he's going to transfer out in about a month. This is what's going to happen. Can Jamarian Parker be that guy we think is going to be? What about Connor Booth? What's going on with Connor Booth? I don't know. So that's the first thing. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on the running back battle. The DB battle is something I think is really intriguing. Okay, so right now, in my opinion, we have 3 starters that we can pencil down in the DB room. You have Sear Wright at corner. You have Deshaun Singleton at the strong safety spot. And then you have Marquez Buford somewhere. I would like Marquez Buford to be our rover, and I think that's what's going to happen, but that's not confirmed. But after that, everything's wide open. We have no idea who's going to start at corner along Sear Wright. We have no idea who's going to be one of our nickel corners. We have no idea who's going to be our other safety starter. And we have a lot of talent. Like, you guys hear me hype up a bunch of guys all the time. Like, I love Larry Tarver. I love Amari Sanders' game. I really like Jameer Khan. I like Andrew Marshall a lot from Idaho. There's talent everywhere. But who's actually going to step up and make that depth chart? And there's one name who I really am intrigued to see what happens with him in spring ball. Malcolm Hartzog. What can Malcolm Hartzog do? Because he's going into his last year of eligibility. He's a 4th-year player. He's played since he was a true freshman here. But there's not necessarily a role for him in this defense. He's not a corner. We know that. He's not big enough really to be a safety. He's not a good enough tackler to be a rover. So where do we even put Malcolm Hartzog? Is he even going to be here in the fall? I don't know. So there's a lot of stuff going on in this DB room, but out of all the rooms, the reason why it's the most intriguing to me is because that's where the most cuts are going to be. There are going to be a lot of cuts. Okay. I'll just name off to you some guys. There are so many redshirt freshmen in this DB room. Caleb Benning, Rex Guthrie, Donovan Jones, Kamir Prescott, Braylon Prude, Amari Sanders, Larry Tarver, Evan Taylor, President Okafor. Those are all of those guys are redshirt freshmen. And guess what? None of them were recruited by Addison Williams. I would not be shocked if a couple of those guys leave. I'm going to be shocked. So that'll be something that absolutely we're going to have to watch. And then, you talk about this defensive line room, and I'll have a video about that this week, what's going on with the defensive line. That is going to be a huge battle as well. Is this defensive line going to be as good as last year? Can Keelan Davis be that guy we expect him to? What about some of these depth pieces? Jalen George is a guy who we've talked about winter conditioning, and he's really impressing the staff. Is he going to start? What about Elijah Judy? I don't know. One thing that I think is really not great for Nebraska, though, is that they have 0 early enrollee defensive linemen this year. Tyson Terry, Cade Petruzek, and Malcolm Simpson, all 3 of our defensive line signings, all 3 of them are 4 stars, are not getting on campus until July. So we will have no freshmen who really get in this rotation. So that's unfortunate for us, but definitely want to put that on your radar. So those are the battles I'm really looking out for. And then quarterback 2 is going to be a big battle. Like, who's it going to be? Is it going to be Jalen Gramstad, the veteran guy who we all feel pretty good about? Is it going to be Marcos Davila, who you guys already know how I feel about Marcos Davila? I think he's a baller. Or is it going to be TJ Lateef? Like, I think a lot of people just naturally think TJ is going to redshirt. Like, I don't think he thinks that. I don't think some of the coaching staff thinks that. I think TJ has come here to play right away to try to get some opportunities. Like, TJ's probably going to redshirt, but he's going to play in 4 games. So that is going to be really interesting to see what happens there at that quarterback room. But let's open it up to you guys. What are you looking for in spring practice? What are some storylines? I absolutely want to hear what you have to say. Keep putting stuff in the comment section. I want to get back here. Tribal's Chief says, are you concerned about Dylan being at sports events, then improving himself on the field and at the gym? A little bit. I think Dylan likes the attention, maybe a little too much, and that's fine, right? He's a celebrity in the state of Nebraska. He knows it, and I think he's, I like that he's supporting Nebraska high school sports and he's supporting the basketball team. I've never seen anything like it. I'll tell you that. I've never seen a Nebraska player go out in public this much and do all these events. I would feel a lot less concerned about it if he was already established quarterback. If he was already a top 10 quarterback in college football, I'd be like, oh, do whatever you want, Dylan. But I don't know. To me, it's kind of weird, and I don't want to. And I'm cool. Like, I want to make this very clear that I'm cool with him, doing whatever he wants to do, like going out to basketball games. Like, that's cool. I think it's cool. But at the exact same time, I want to make it very clear that I don't want him to think that he's already made it and that he doesn't need to improve and he's already the celebrity and that he's just already really good. Like, he needs to have that mindset. Like, yeah, although everybody knows my name and I'm a household figure in Nebraska, I ain't good, and I need to continue to get better so I, live up to this reputation. So that's my thing about Dylan. I'm cool whatever he does. Like, I don't care that he's going to basketball games as long as he puts in the work. In the mornings and the afternoons and at the rest of the time. And that's what we've heard from the coaching staff is that he's doing just that. So I'm cool with it, but, a little bit of I'd say it's something to watch. Any players disappointing in spring practice? We've had a lot of transfers. Well, their spring practice hasn't started, so we can't say. A great short yardage back starts with the strength of the offensive line. I agree with you 100%. But it's also better. It's also good for just a short yardage back to be incredibly smart, to have incredible vision. Like, Quinn Ives is somebody who I think can be that short yardage back because, you watch Quinn Ives on film. He's not incredibly impressive from a physicality standpoint. He's not impressive from a speed standpoint. He's a decent pass catcher, but that's just about it. So I'd say from an athletic standpoint, like, Quinn Ives doesn't impress you. But he doesn't need to impress us. I just want him to be a smart running back, to see the hole, see the A gap, B gap, and explode through it and get those short yards. That's all I need from him. Okay, use his strengths rather than his weaknesses. So we need a short yardage back, though. And whether it's Quinn Ives, Jamarion Parker, Mekhi Nelson, I don't care. We just need one of them. If Ives is good, we are fine. And for 3rd and 2, we need to do the pass, the push. Remember how the Eagles use it? Oh, you're talking about the tush push. No, we can't do the tush push. We can't do that because you know why the Eagles can do that? It's because they have a great offensive line. I don't know if our offensive line is good enough to do that just yet. Nah. I think that Dylan was a little bit more of a project than we initially expected. He's still a future NFL starter. I'm not worried about the next 2 years. Well, I agree with you 100%. 100%. That's a great comment. I've said this before. Like, I think with Dylan, it would have been more ideal for Kyle McCord to come in here and Kyle McCord to start last year and Kyle, do whatever he does. And then for Dylan to learn under him in redshirt. I think that would have been a lot better for Dylan. But at the end of the day, I think you learn the most by actually being on the field. So he's going to take a big jump. So while it would have probably been better for the team for Kyle McCord to be out there last year. We probably would have won more games last year. We could have probably won 9 games with Kyle McCord last year. It's going to be better for Dylan long-term that he plays a true freshman. I hope that makes sense. Disagree. Emmett is underrated in the pass game. I think he needs to be utilized more. I mean, he's okay catching the football on screens, but he's not like a dynamic pass catcher. He only had that big one play versus Wisconsin on that screen pass. But Emmett's not a great pass blocker. That's the problem. He's not great in the pass pro. That's like his only big weakness to me. So that's what I need him to improve on. That's why he probably didn't get on the field as much as he should have. So that is absolutely something that we kind of need to see him improve on. I'm concerned about Dylan not using this offseason at the gym. I think he is. I think Dylan is going to the gym early. He's competing early. I don't think the whole basketball thing is that much of a worry, but it is something to keep an eye out for. But the coaching staff always says how Dylan's getting in the facility early at 6 a.m., 5 a.m., put in the work. So I'm not concerned. Now, I agree with you with that last point. I think Dylan needs to lose some weight. This is where it's cutting season. We got to cut this summer a little bit. Get rid of that belly a little bit, and that's cool. And then so you can become a little bit more elusive. Continue to put on good weight, though. And we've already talked about that. Malcolm Hartzog is a safety. I agree with you. He's better fit to be a free safety more than anything. But the problem is that Malcolm Hartzog can't tackle. And typically you want your safeties to be some of the best tacklers on your team. So that is a problem with him. Tarver is the best bet to start, in my opinion. I agree with you. I really like Larry Tarver and his upside, but Amari Sanders is somebody they're really high on. And I'm also looking out for Jeremiah Charles. Jeremiah Charles completely fell off. If everybody remembers that, he was so hyped up last offseason that this athletic freak who's tall, who's speedy. And I can't remember what game it was, but he started or he got significant reps. It might have been UCLA. Don't quote me on that. And he played awful. And then we never saw him again. Jeremiah Charles, he played one game, did not play well, and he never played again. Can Jeremiah Charles change the narrative? I don't know. He's a guy who I'm looking at and be like, this is a big year 3 for Jeremiah Charles. If he can't break out this year, he's never going to break out. And that's the unfortunate reality of college football nowadays. If you're going into year 3 and you're not playing, you're not in that too deep, very rarely are you going to be a good player, unless you're like an offensive lineman. It's the only position where it's okay to sit on the bench for that long. What are the odds that Buford and or Hartzog enter the portal? I think Hartzog is definitely a candidate to enter the portal. I don't think Buford's going to enter. Buford's going to start. The coaching staff loves Marquez Buford a lot more than the fan base does. So Marquez Buford won't enter. No chance. But I could absolutely see a world where Hartzog does. Do we have a legit chance this year? Chance at what? Well, chance at a national championship? Probably not. But chance at winning 9-10 games and being nationally relevant and competitive in every game and having fun? Then yeah, absolutely. I think we have a good chance. Brandon Arrington just left us off his top 6. Yeah, I'm not shocked by that. Did that just release all around? Did that just release? Let me check that. Or is that old information? Yep, you're right. Brandon Arrington just released his top 6. Bama, Texas A&M, Georgia, Oregon, Penn State, and USC. So Nebraska, breaking news on the channel, has lost out on one of their number 1 defensive back targets out of California in Mr. Brandon Arrington. So thanks for letting me know all around. That's unfortunate. I like Brandon Arrington a lot. That guy's speedy, man. Guy's a speedster, but we were never going to land him anyways. It would have been nice, but I don't think we were ever going to land him. So thanks for letting me know, though. That's some breaking news. Tyler says, hey, Wilson, in your opinion, what player this offseason is most likely to transfer out of high value? Example, Malachi Coleman last year. I mean, we've already kind of talked about Malcolm Hartzog. Of high value, I could see Demetrius Bell. And I'll tell you this right now, I'd be so mad if Demetrius Bell transferred. But, Demetrius Bell, once again, he's going to a pivotal year 3. If Demetrius is sitting there and he's looking at this depth chart and he's saying, I'm not, the top 4, I think he could leave and say, I'm going to go start elsewhere. I would hate to see Demetrius Bell leave. I would hate to see, because I think he's so naturally talented and he's just got dealt a bad hand with the injuries. So I think that's one. What's another one? I think some of these talented, DBs could leave. I could see an Amari Sanders, maybe not an Amari Sanders, but I could see, I could see Amari Sanders leave if he wasn't in the 2 deep or 3 deep. So maybe not this offseason, but the end of the year. So we will see there. That's a really good question, though. Dylan is 100% NFL quarterback. I'm worried he will have a better NFL career than a college career. I agree with you. It's a good point. I think Dylan's game is better fit for the NFL than it is for the college football. I really do. I think he's going to be a better college football player or a better NFL player than college. But can he get to the NFL? Can he be a first-round NFL draft pick? That starts right now. So I agree with you. But I'll tell you this: if he's a good NFL quarterback, that's only good for us, because that means we're going to get a bunch of good quarterback recruits on the promise that we're going to develop in the same way that we developed, Dylan. Like, for example, Mahomes was a good quarterback at Texas Tech, but he took it to a different level when he went to the NFL. But ever since he went to the NFL and had this success, Texas Tech has been reaping the benefits from that, and been getting some pretty good recruits, because they're like, oh, look what we did to Mahomes. Like, Texas Tech didn't develop Mahomes. Andy Reid did, but they're reaping the benefits of it. So it's a good point. If we are worried about revenue and have to cancel the Tennessee game, why are we playing Cincinnati at Arrowhead? Well, we weren't going to make money off the Cincinnati game anyway. Cincinnati is a away game. So we had no impact over that. Cincinnati, they're choosing to go to Arrowhead. So we wouldn't have made money anyways. But yeah, Cincinnati's an away game. So we weren't going to make money anyways. But I like that Arrowhead game. I might be there. We will see. That'll be fun. That'll be really fun. I normally don't like, these neutral site games. Not a big fan of those usually, especially when they're like, in the Mercedes Superdome or wherever, right? I'm not a big fan of that, but there's something cool about playing at Arrowhead in Kansas City. I think that's pretty cool. So that'll be a fun game. I know a lot of people are going out to that with a lot of Nebraska fans. So shout out to the ones who do. Keep putting stuff in the comment section, talking spring ball, talking questions. I'll get to everything you guys have to say tonight. Nathan says, I don't like California recruits. To me, they are soft. That might just be the Vegas part of me speaking. I don't know. I don't think so. We're not on the same page there, Nathan. I think California boys, they're incredibly talented. Incredibly talented. Like, Isaiah Hunter's a California boy. I mean, he might be pretty good for us, right? No, I think California guys are some of the most talented recruits, some of the most raw, most athletic guys you'll see. Yeah, I don't think they're soft, but I think of all the states that are probably the softest, it's the Florida boys. But the Florida boys are also the most athletically gifted out of the bunch. Anyways, that's a conversation for another day. I want to talk a little bit. What do I want to talk about? Hold on. Let me pull up. Yeah, going back to spring ball, I think the biggest storyline, and again, keep putting stuff in the comment section. I'll get to your questions. The biggest thing that I'm looking out for in spring ball as well, and people aren't talking about this, is just how Dana Holgorsen changes up this offense. Like, what's it going to look like next year? Because it isn't going to look like what we saw the last 2 years. Is it going to be this air raid? Because I think the biggest indicator of the way this offense is going to go is the fact that we took 3 wide receiver transfers in the portal and we took 0 running backs. And we also took a quarterback transfer. To me, that was the biggest indicator of what this offense is going to look like. It's going to be more of a gunslinging offense. It's going to be more of a quick-paced West Coast offense than what we've seen. Now, it's still going to be a Big Ten offense. And we're still going to have this power running game at times. We're still going to have to rely on Emmett Johnson at times and his legs, and that's how it's going to be, when it's the winter months. But if you're expecting us to run 50, 60 times a game, or not 50, 55%, 60% of the time, just not going to happen. And the scary part about this, and we can talk about this, we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, is the fact that we're relying more on Dylan's arm means that Dylan will dictate more whether or not we win the ball game. If Dylan's having a good game, we're in prime position to win. But if Dylan Raiola is stinking it up, missing throws, not being accurate, taking bad sacks, throwing interceptions, there's almost a 0% chance we're going to win. That's what happens when we rely more on your quarterback, especially a quarterback who can't run, who doesn't, do anything in the running game. So I'm really intrigued to see what this offense is going to look like. And the problem with us not having a spring game, and I also want to hear what you guys have to say about the spring game. Oh, we got to talk about the spring game. We got to talk about that next. But the thing about not having a spring game is the fact that we can't really just see what this offense is going to look like. We can't see the formula. We can't see the schematics behind it. That, to me, is kind of a missed opportunity for the fans, because now we're going to be waiting until September to actually see what this offense is going to look like. So really intrigued on that. We won't get too many answers during spring ball of what the offense is going to change, but we'll get some answers probably as the offseason progresses. So I'm really intrigued about that. Let's talk about the spring game. I totally forgot about this, guys. Totally forgot. So thank you to myself for reminding myself about this. So they released the other day what they're going to do for the spring game. Obviously, there's no spring game. But they released that they're going to be doing a 7v7 scrimmage They're going to be doing skill challenges. They're going to have like a garage sale of like all the Nebraska gear. It's like it's very interesting. I don't know what's really going on. And the tickets are $10 for adults, $1 for kids. To me, this is kind of a slap in the face. Like I told you guys over the past couple weeks, what I expected was them to have a closed practice. I expected it to be a practice, kind of like what they had last year, where it's closed. You can buy a ticket for $20. No flash photography, nothing, but you can go watch. That's what I expected. The fact that it's a 7v7 scrimmage in skill challenges, and it just kind of seems like a slap in the face. Like, what are we doing here? It feels like when the NFL Pro Bowl went away in favor of a flag football game. That's what it feels like. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it. I will not be attending. I haven't attended a spring game in a while anyways. But I don't know. Let me know. Are you guys planning on attending? Are you guys, I mean, obviously you can't watch it because it's not going to be televised or anything, but I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the way they went when it comes to the spring practice. It's going to look completely different. Like, I think this will be probably the only year they do this, and then next year it'll probably not happen ever again. And, you just never know what's going to happen with spring practice anyways. Like, they're already telling you that they're going to go to an NFL model, that spring practice is not going to be the same. They're going to kind of have OTAs like they do in the NFL. So, man, I'm telling you, college football is changing so quickly. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it. Not a big fan of the 7v7 scrimmage. I think it's going to be flag football, or it's going to be touch or something. It's going to be pretty lame. But, hey, it's something, I guess. I mean, it's for the kids, right? Like, that's what the spring game is always for. I think sometimes the adults get wrapped up in it a little too much. Like, I think more than anything, the spring game is for the kids. Like, that's when the kids really have fun. The spring game, that's when I always went spring games when I was a kid. So, I don't know. But I personally will not be going just because I just don't think it's that great. So I want to hear what you guys have to say about the spring game. But that was interesting news. I forgot to make a video about that, but that's my opinion. Not a big fan, to be completely honest with you. George says, who's the best offensive lineman that will make an impact for our team's success? It's a good question. Because I'm telling you, like, this offensive line is completely different from what we saw last year. The one guy I'm looking out for who I want to take a big jump is Gunnar Gatula. Can Gunnar Gatula take the jump to be an all Big Ten type of left tackle? Because that's what we desperately need. Desperately need better tackle play. And then I'm looking at Rocco Spindler. Can Rocco Spindler hold it down at right guard? Is he going to even play at center? I know that we've heard the murmurs that he might be a center. I personally don't like that. I don't want him to be a center. But what's going on there with Rocco Spindler? So those are the two I'm looking for. What's going on at center? If Rocco Spindler isn't the guy who's going to start there, because we have no idea. What's going on with Elijah Pritchett? That'll be very interesting. Good question. Dylan's deep ball is not very good last year. Yeah, we agree. We've talked about this over the past couple months. Like, him missing that Jalen Lloyd deep ball against Iowa. Oh, gosh. To this day, I'm scarred. We would have won that football game if Dylan didn't miss that throw. We would have won the game versus Iowa if Dylan made that completion to Jalen Lloyd where he was wide open. Nobody was even close to him. And Dylan just overshot him. We would have won the Illinois game if Dylan, didn't overshot Luke Lindenmeyer on that little post route. So I agree with you. I agree 100%. Spring game is just a teaser. I was never a big fan. Yeah, I agree. I was never a huge fan of it either, but it sucks that it's gone. It's better than nothing, in my opinion. But what I think is going to happen is I think the spring game and all these festivities that we're having this year, it's going to be a one-year thing. They're not even going to have it next year. They're just going to kind of end spring brawl and not have much. It's called the Husker Games. They're going to be a volleyball exhibition and all those other things. Yeah, they're having like free admission for the soccer game or whatever too. They're having exhibition volleyball. It's cool. Like, it's cool for the residents of Lincoln, but to me, it's like, again, it's not the spring game. It's not the same. And they're also charging people to go to that volleyball game, which I think is nuts. Like, you're charging people to go to exhibition. Like, what are we doing here? Because historically, they have not charged anybody. David says, I understand why, but I think not having a spring game is operating out of fear. Reminds me of Scott Frost not tackling at practice. Well, okay, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. We are operating out of fear, but I think that's how you kind of need to operate nowadays. You need to have that mindset that, hey, if we got something good, we don't want to see the world see it. Okay. It's just called being smart. You could call it being fearful, but I think it's being smart more than anything. Like, for example, let's say you have this great trick play that is a guaranteed touchdown. You know that when you use this trick play, you will score 6. It's a beautiful, beautiful trick play. You toss it to the running back. The running back throws it downfield to this wide receiver who's streaking open because I think it's a pitch play, and boom, it's 6. And you have that at the back of your playbook, and you're waiting to use it. Would you use that play in a spring game where people can see it? No, because then it's rendered useless. Now it's on film. Okay. It's not using that play isn't fearful. It's being smart. You don't want to, show opponents your schematics. You don't want to show them your secrets. So I agree with what Nebraska's doing. It sucks. It sucks for the average fan who likes this spring game. Do not get me wrong. And you could say it's fearful, but in my opinion, more than anything, it's just being smart. It's just being smart. And it's the way the college football going. And if we weren't going to do it, everybody else was going to. Everybody else is going to cancel. Clemson's having a spring game this year. You better believe they're going to cancel it next year. This is just the way things are going. I'm glad that Nebraska's ahead of the curve. Because here's what could have happened. Nebraska could play this spring game this year. And they could have a guy, let's just say Keona Davis shines. Keona Davis balls out. 3 sacks, strip sack, 5 tackles. He's all over the field. But Keona Davis isn't on the starting lineup. And he's looking at the depth chart saying, oh my gosh, I'm not starting. I just played that good. Then after the game Saturday night, Keona Davis gets a call. It's the head coach of the Texas Longhorns, Steve Sarkisian. Hey, Keona, I was watching the game today on Big Ten Network. You played really well. I know I shouldn't be contacting you. I know this is tampering, but every school does it. Hey, do you want to come over to Austin and play for us? Why would Keona Davis decline that call? Why would he say no? He wouldn't. So, yeah, it sucks for the average fan, but you're protecting your guys. You're protecting your guys from being tampered with. And if you think, and it's just the hard reality, everybody's being tampered with. I guarantee you Matt Rhule tampers. I guarantee you he does. I guarantee you some of these positional coaches tamper. You think we weren't tampering with Williams-Nwaneri? Because he committed to us the day after he entered the portal. We tampered. I'll tell you that right now. And I feel confident saying that, but we're not going to get in trouble for tampering because everybody does it. Texas tampers. Okay, Florida State tampered. Syracuse has tampered with our guys in the past. It's what happens. So I saw that to say this. You could say it's soft, and that's fine. But it's smart more than anything. We're protecting our guys going forward. So that's what I think. And David also says, I think we need to take advantage of every chance we get of a true game experience. This spring game isn't a game experience. I mean, let's be completely real with each other. Like, there's 40,000 fans in there. The crowd isn't loud. It's fun for the players, but it's not a real game experience. I think, in my opinion, you can replicate a game experience. A lot of NFL teams do this nowadays, where they'll go into a closed practice and they'll be indoors and they'll basically pump in sounds. Like there'll be these loud sounds blaring that makes it sound like you're in an NFL stadium or in a college football stadium. That's what we need to do if we want to have a game experience. I mean, you can replicate it. So that's my take. Everything Huskers says horrible officiating today. Man, Nebraska basketball just isn't any good. That's what I would say to you. I mean, they probably were. I'm not going to lie to you. I did not watch the game. I did not, because I knew it was going to happen. I tweeted out the other day. I said Nebraska basketball losing versus Iowa. It's just the season's over. So was not wrong, unfortunately. I don't know why they can't just shut down the SEC. They rig their games and programs tamper with every other team's players and coaches. You can't shut down a conference. I mean, the dirty little secret, Grant, is that conferences have more power than the NCAA nowadays. The SEC has more power than the Big Ten, or than the NCAA. The Big Ten has more power than the NCAA. That's just how it works. Would not be shocked if the NCAA goes completely away in a couple of years. So, I mean, yeah, cool, the SEC tampers, but we do too. The Big Ten tampers. Every college football program who wants to win tampers. They do their best to cheat, to bend the rules. That's what you got to do. That's what you got to do. Like, if I found out that Nebraska tampered with Dylan Rhule or with, well, it wouldn't be. If I found out that Nebraska tampered to get Dane Key, I would not care. I would be actually very happy that we tampered to get Dane Key. Cheaters win, and everybody cheats. I'm telling you, if you're in a math class, senior year high school, algebra test, you have this professor who's not very strict. It's a hard class, but not very strict. Doesn't really care. Doesn't really pay attention during the test. And everybody around you is cheating on that algebra test. Nobody studied, but you're sticking to your morals. And you're like, I'm not cheating. I'm going to try my best. You get the test back the next day. Everybody gets hundreds. What do you get? 70. And you're like, why aren't these people getting in trouble? They cheated. The teacher's like, I don't care. I don't have any regulation over them. So now you're the idiot for not cheating because everybody else cheated and they got 100%, but you stuck to your morals. Like, you might think that's the right thing to do, but at the end of the day, that got a better grade than you now. So that's what Nebraska's doing. Like, yeah, everybody's cheating. Everybody's tampering. So is Nebraska, because that's what you got to do. And they're not enforcing anything. They're not, breaking any rules technically. So anyways, that's what I'd say to that. Officials in the Big Ten suck. Why don't we take steps to improve them in our conference? There's not much you can do. There's just not much. There's not much we can do, unfortunately. Now, are the refs biased against Nebraska? That's a conversation for another day. I'm not a believer that the refs are biased against Nebraska. I know a lot of people are. But I will say, of all the teams who've got the worst calls over the past couple of years, Nebraska easily, for whatever reason, they get screwed more than any other team. And I don't know why. Don't know why. Couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you. Riley says, who are the 3 targets in the 2026 class that Nebraska should target and that they need to get? It's a really good question. Well, I'll start it off with the running back position. I think they need to get 1 4-star running back, whether that's a Zevin Walker or Brian Bonner. I don't care which one. Got to get at least one of those guys. We desperately lack a game-changing running back. So that's one. Number 2, we desperately lack a very talented pass rusher who's physical, who's big. So I'm going to raise you 4-star Titan Davis coming out of St. Louis, Missouri. And then number 3, I'm going to go Jordan Campbell at that linebacker spot. He just gives me Levante David vibes. Both Florida boys. Give me Jordan Campbell. Flip him from the Hurricanes. Good question. Heard officials versus Ohio State were bad too. Oh yeah, they were real bad. Ooh, I was gearing up to make a video about that game if we were going to win, and we lost last second. I was too mad. I'm like, I can't make a video because I'm going to say things I'm going to regret. If everybody is tampering anyway, then just hold the game anyway. If somebody does really well, move them up the depth chart. Well, that doesn't really make any sense because then somebody's getting demoted. Like if somebody has a really good game and you move up the depth chart, then somebody gets moved down the depth chart and then feels disgruntled and then they transfer. So you're losing one player one way or another. So that doesn't necessarily work, David, unfortunately. How many years before we implement some sort of contract system for the players? There's already contracts going on. Like Nebraska had a contract with Emmett. And, I already stated the Emmett contract. I waited a couple months to tell you it's $300,000. And they basically told him that he was going to share carries with Dante Dowdell while Dante Dowdell's not here. And they also told him that they weren't going to get a transfer running back. I don't know necessarily how much of that was a contract, but I know for a fact he got paid $300,000. But contracts are already kind of a thing. Now, as for a system in place, as for a salary cap, I think we're still a long ways away from that. Chris says, are you sure about Deshaun playing the jack position? Yeah, the coaching staff already says they're going to play him at jack. That was confirmed. That was confirmed a couple weeks ago, not only by Phil Simpson, but I think Matt Rhule also confirmed that. Now, am I a fan of that? No. I personally like Deshaun McCullough as a middle linebacker. He's so athletically gifted. I'd rather just have him play in space. But it is what it is. I think Jack is a bigger need, so you put him at Jack. He's going to be successful. And it should be noted that his best year of his career was at Indiana as a true freshman, and that was the only year of his career that he played as an edge rusher. So, might be playing to his strengths a little bit. But I genuinely believe, like people ask me, Wilson, who's going to be our highest drafted player next year? I think no question about it, it's going to be Deshaun McCullough. And I could see him be a first-round pick if everything goes right. Off topic, but Levante David's putting up better numbers than every other linebacker in the NFL. Nobody ever gives him credit. Yeah, just one of the more underrated players of all time. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. He should be a Hall of Famer. He's a stud, man, and he's an NFL champion. So give him that as well. How good do you think Cornhuskers will be next season? 8-9 wins. I can't spoil everything. But 8-9 wins, I'll say that. How's Cortez Mills looking in practice? We've heard some good things about him in winter conditioning. At least recently, we've heard a lot of good things. But again, spring practice is going to be very telling. Very telling. Very telling. Any concern with losing Rhule if the Huskers have success? Only to Penn State. That's the only school I'd ever be worried about losing him to. But Penn State, they just made the playoffs, so I'm not too worried about that. Appreciate you for your $5 super chat, David. Thank you so much, my man. I appreciate you as always. David says, I appreciate you doing this live stream this evening. Thank you, David. I appreciate you, my man, supporting the channel. Thank you so much for the $5. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And everybody, check out David's channel, Living in Omaha. He got a little channel of his own, so give him a look. Appreciate you, David. Bentley says, how much criticism will Matt Rhule get if he doesn't have a good year? Oh, a lot of criticism. I mean, that's the Nebraska fan base, right? Like, we have high expectations here, for better or worse. I'll tell you this. If Matt Rhule does not make a bowl game this year, oh, my gosh. That'll be nuts. That'll be nuts. But he'll get some criticism for sure. Now, are we going to be talking hot seat? I don't know. Probably not. And I don't think he's not going to be in the hot seat. We're going to have a good year. Nathan says, what are your predictions for how the special teams will do? I think our kicking and punting situation is going to be really good. I like our new punter, Jack McAllister from Washington. I think, a full year with John Hall getting used to the situation and our new long snapper, I think we're going to be a really good kicking team. The main thing I'm looking out for is finding a dynamic return man. Can we find a dynamic returner? Who is that going to be? Is it going to be a Ja'Cory Barney? Is it going to be an Isaiah Mosey? I think he can return kicks. Maybe a Harley Gilmore. Can we find a dynamic returner? That's what I really want more than anything. Like, that's such a benefit, man. Such a benefit. So, I don't know, but I think as for the kicking, the punting, the most important stuff, putting points on the board, winning the battlefield position, I think we're going to be really, really good. Really good. Pit Snipe, I'm late. What up? Pit Snipe, hope you're having a good night, my man. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Hope you're having a good one, my man. Bentley says, what do you think of Jayden Daniels? He's one of them ones, man. Heisman winner. He had a great year for my Commanders this year. Hoping Dylan could be like Jayden and win the Heisman and have a great career. But yeah, Jayden, one of them ones, man. He's made it fun to be a Commanders fan for the first time in my entire life. Yeah, really, really was a fun year. It's a fun year. Shout out to Mr. Jayden Daniels, man. And fun fact, Nebraska recruited him coming out of high school, and he should have came here, but it's what it is. Anyways, hold on. Chris says, don't always agree with you. That's perfectly fine, Chris. We don't need everybody to agree with everything I say. I think it's important for people to disagree and say their own opinions. So I like that you disagree with me, but at times, obviously. But he says you are the hardest working and most interesting host reporting on Nebraska football. I appreciate that, man. I mean, it's hard, especially like months like this, dude. Views are down, subs are down. Like nobody's really, consuming Nebraska football content as much as they were. But I'm still on the grind. You know what I mean? Trying to think of good ideas for you guys. So I appreciate that. It means a lot to me, especially months like this, right? Where just trying to put in the grind, put in some work. But thank you so much, Chris, for that comment. It means a lot, my man. Bentley says, "Do you collect sports cards?" I do not. I used to when I was little. When I was probably 10, 11, 12. I do have a lot of football cards, but they're old. They're like 2015, 2016. I probably got some that are worth a lot of money. Because I'd say I have about 3,000 cards. I have a bunch of cards, but I don't collect them anymore. But I gotta look through those. Actually, I might have some pretty good ones in there. I have a couple of error cards, and I know those error cards are worth a lot. So I'm holding on to those. But appreciate that question, guys. Cards aren't worth much anymore, or are worth much. I don't know. I don't know what you're saying, Nathan. All right, guys, we've been going for about an hour. Fun live stream, talking it up, chopping it up, talking about recruiting, winter conditioning, spring ball. Everybody, put your final stuff in the comment section. I'll go as long as you guys have stuff to talk about. So put your final stuff in there really quick. Hit that like button. It really, really helps me out. It really helps more people see this. So again, just take 2 seconds. Please hit that like button again, so this video can get out to more people. But yeah, you can put your stuff out there, your final comments, and then we'll get out of here and everybody can enjoy their Sunday night. But please, while you're at it, hit that like button. It takes 2 seconds and helps more people see this. But put your final stuff in here. David says, thanks again. Go Big Red. Appreciate you, David. Thanks for hanging out tonight. Bentley says, dude, I am really excited for next season. I am too, man. It's going to be a long off season, but I like the off season too. I think the off season is fun. I like recruiting a lot. So it's fun to talk recruiting to pass the time. And we still got stuff to talk about. So I absolutely am excited for this season. Nathan says, we need to beat Iowa. You're darn right. We need to beat those Hawkeyes, but I don't know, man. I try not to get my hopes up about, beating them, because for whatever reason, man, when the game gets tight against the Hawkeyes, we find a way to lose. And there's no solution there. Corey says, great work, Wilson. Thank you, Corey. I appreciate you, my man. Everybody, again, thank you guys for tuning in. Looks like the comment section is done for the night. Everybody have a great Sunday night. Again, hit that like button on the stream. Really, really helps me out. If you're someone watching this and you're unsubscribed, please hit that subscribe button. Join the best family here on Husker YouTube. Appreciate all of you guys. Hold on. I'll get to one more comment here from Chris. Oh, we got a couple more. One second. I'll get to these last comments here. Wilson, if slow in April, May, do a segment on the depth chart projections, and then in July, August. Chris, you've already read my mind. I'm doing exactly that. I kind of have I have an idea. I have all my videos planned out for the next month. I have a spreadsheet. And I have a bunch of ideas. So I have ideas all off season. We'll push out daily content all year long. Don't worry about it. But we'll do a depth chart prediction at the end of spring ball. So probably at the end of April, and then I'll do another depth chart prediction. I'd say early August. So yeah, but you read my mind there, Chris. I wish we could play our old rivals more. Me too, man. I think I want to play Colorado every year, but we'll never do that. But it is what it is. I can enjoy the offseason now that the coaching staff is full. I agree. And I'm super excited about this new coaching staff. The Mike Ecklers of the world, the Kel Shorts of the world. This new coaching staff is going to be great. And Dana Holgorsen, man. I expect this offense to be really, really good. Do an all-time greatest Huskers show. Maybe. I kind of did one of those last year. It didn't do as well as I wanted it to, so I might do it again. I'll do some more history videos. I have some ideas about some history Nebraska football videos I think could do really, really well. So I'm keeping those in the back pocket probably for June or July. But watch out for those videos this summer. Coaching staff way better than last year. I agree with you, Nathan. All right, guys. I got to get out of here, man. I want to catch the end of this Omaha basketball game. Let's see what – I want to check with this Omaha basketball score real quick here. On stream, how my Mavs doing? Ooh, they're up 10. Shouts to the Omaha Mavs, man. They're 10 or about 14 minutes away from clinching the Summer League Championship. They've already clinched the tournament, but shout to the Mavs. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. Hit that like button on the stream. I'm getting out of here. Hope everybody has a great Sunday night, great week ahead of them. Appreciate all of you guys once again, as always. All right, guys. Go Big Red. Go Matt Rhule. And I'll see you in the next one.